Well, Ghana is still mourning, and there are still a lot, though, that we can do to honor the memory of the fallen. And one of them is definitely winning the Galamsey War, because, as you know, they were on their way to a very major launch of an initiative that was designed to tackle the illegal mining menace. And this was the Responsive Cooperative Mining Program. The 8 of them, the 2 pilots and the crew member, 3 crew, and the 6 other officers, including the 2 cabinet ministers, were all on their way here. And they had their minds on dealing with the illegal mining menace when they perished. And the only fitting tribute to them, beyond words, is to act to end the illegal mining, because that is fundamentally what they were out there doing. That is why they are heroes, killed in line of duty. And that is why tonight we must spend some time looking at that ultimate goal, that ultimate objective. And already we are having the coalition against illegal mining making that point forcefully, that we must seize this. They have left us a legacy. We must take that torch and run the rest of that mile and cross that line so that their death will not be in vain. And that is the conversation we're going to be having tonight. What do we know about the program they were scheduled to join the other ministers to launch? What do we know about it? We know one of the things that it was going to do was establish a cooperative mining scheme. Also, it was to provide alternative livelihoods in partnership with the University of Mines. And this was important because, as we've always said, and governments in the past have tried various approaches to dealing with this, those who are involved in the illegal mining obviously believe that that's the only thing they can do. To wage this war and wage it relentlessly, I think the thinking here is try and provide meaningful alternative. And then once you've done that, those who remain will have no other reason to be there than to simply destroy the environment and kill all of us. And so then you go in and uproot it by force. I believe that is possibly a strategy we're adopting. I'll tell you something very revealing that the Interior Minister, Muntaka Mubarak, said on the Super Morning Show, I believe, on Monday. It was powerful indeed, revealing the commitments that the Defense Minister had made in a private meeting with the President. Another thing that they were going to do was to restore degraded lands, and they are just countless number of degraded lands across the country. The forest is gone. Part of this plan they were about to launch, a very noble cause indeed, was to restore those degraded lands. That's what we know as far as what we're told that the venue is concerned. But this government itself, since it took over, have tried to do a few things, all part of the resetting agenda in the area of dealing with Galamsey illegal mining. One of the things they've done was the National Anti-Illegal Mining Secretariat that had been set up. And as you know, the Environment Minister, who was on my show this year, was a key member of that, and he also passed as part of the implementation of, beyond the things he told me here on the show, he obviously wanted to get to the ground and make things happen. Also, the deportation of foreign nationals, something that we heard about also from the Interior Ministry. The reshuffling of the police, a key initiative, one of the new things that he attempted to do and have done. The IGP was instructed to do so. Those police officers in illegal mining areas were reshuffled, were moved around, were transferred, because obviously if you're there, you failed. Amendment of the LI 2462, and this was the LI that the now departed Murtala Mohammed was leading. It was on this show he gave the roadmap towards the amendment of this particular LI. I know many in the civil society space said they didn't want amendment, they wanted a complete repeal. And some have suggested that this was ultimately going to happen. We'll look at that because it's part of his legacy, something that he was working towards. the permit required for excavators importation was another policy that this government introduced as part of the fight against illegal mining. Small-scale licenses, as we know, issued after December 7 were revoked is another one. And you also had the 107 small-scale licenses found to be irregular, also dealt with quite firmly. You had the 985 water guards that were trained and deployed to help deal with this problem. The acting on the Professor Frimpong Boateng report is something that the government had said would happen, together with the dealing with other members of this government. I remember the statement that the Attorney General had authored, writing to the other state agencies to investigate them, including this. So this government was attempting to do something about this, obviously. Whether it was enough is a whole different question. But definitely, 8 people are dead now as a result of that attempt to further implement other policies and interventions to tackle the problem. I mean, since this tragedy, though, last week, the coalition, National Coalition Against Illegal Mining, issued a statement, and they make that fundamental call. The call was simple, that we must make sure that in honor of those who are fallen or those who died, in their memory, we should win this war. Their death should not have been in vain. It should actually galvanize us towards doing more in this particular area. And so the few things that they wanted the president and the government to do in New York's memory and in honor of those who died, one obviously was to declare a targeted state of emergency in the areas affected. The second, they wanted the repeal of the LI 2462. They wanted that to happen. They wanted the prosecution of foreigners and not simply repatriating them once they are caught engaged in illegal mining. They talked about the fact that the prosecuting all political elements who are involved in illegal mining, we know that is a big part of the problem. And I've heard many say that the death of these 8, the blood on the hands of those politicians, their colleagues in both political parties who may be involved in illegal mining, that is an important point. But this is a very interesting piece of revelation that Muntaka Mubarak made on the Super Morning Show. That Dr. Manibu Ahmad, the defense minister, was so dedicated to the fight against illegal mining that in a private meeting with the president where the other ministers were in attendance, he pledged to the president that he himself, his family member, and those close to him are not involved in illegal mining. He wanted the president to know that, looked the president in the eye, and pledged and gave the president that assurance. He was part of the arrowhead that was going to deal with the problem. And Muntaka explains why he did that. And Muntaka says that after that meeting, he then talks to him. He says, he calls him bro. He says, bro, well, why did you do that? He says, well, I had to tell the president that if I was going to be leading this charge and leading this war, I wanted the president to know that he can trust that I am not encumbered. I am not compromised in any way, shape, or form in dealing with this matter. And that is why he made that pledge. And he says he did not just make the pledge. He got the president to get everybody else in the room, the other ministers, to make that same pledge to the president. That they themselves, the close relatives, and those associated with them are not involved and will not be participating in illegal mining in any shape, way, or form. And that was a powerful revelation indeed. And it's really the thing that you do in private that nobody knows about that tells your character. And that was Dr. Manibu Ahmad's character that we're now learning about from his other cabinet minister. That isn't the only thing he did in that private meeting. The second thing he did was that he pledged that he would put his position on the line. His position as a defense minister, that he was ready to let go of that position, basically to resign, to quit. If he failed, he made that pledge to the president, according to Muntaka Mubarak, in that private meeting, that he Dr. Manibaba, is ready to fight this war, and that if he fails and he doesn't, he is ready to let go of his position as a defense minister. That is indeed a very powerful, powerful testimony. He said it in private. And he got onto that aircraft, that helicopter, to go to Obuasi, pursuant to this promise, the first leg, if you like, of a marathon, to making good on this pledge he made to the president. And this assurance he's given to him to see to it that the war against illegal mining is won. You understand why we say tonight that our ultimate tribute to him is to win the war against illegal mining. My guests are going to be joining me to unpack this all. Stay with me. Thank you very much for staying with us here on PM Express. And PM Express is always brought to you by Syntex Tanks. It is strong, it is tough, Academic Times newspaper, and Pepsodent Cavity Fighter toothpaste. Let's talk about water tanks. Do you know the secret to real water storage? It's simple. If your tank does not have the tortoise on it, then it is not the correct tank. Join the Syntex Tank family today and enjoy water storage that's tough like a tortoise. Call them on 0244 335 168 to buy now, or find one of their agents, 400 of them across the country, and shop. Let's go online at thesyntexgh.com. Syntex Tanks, it is strong, it is tough. And then there's the Academic Times Journal, which is launching soon with 3 distinctive graphic publications and a journal to showcase and empower students across educational levels, while the journal and the tertiary G seeks to ensure that tertiary students' research makes an impact by contributing to institutional and national developments. Then there's the Pepsodent Cavity Fighter. You know it. If you are about to sleep tonight, just after PM Express, you need to brush your teeth with the Pepsodent Cavity Fighter, because sugar, which many may have taken today, and others that you eat, can create problems for your teeth and for your mouth and for the oral health. And that's why you need to look for the Pepsodent Cavity Fighter and use it, because that is what guarantees a strong teeth. Pepsodent Cavity Fighter is 10 times stronger, and Pepsodent, every smile matters. My guest joining me tonight, Dara Bosu, is a Deputy National Director at Arocha, Ghana. They've been very engaged in the war against illegal mining because they are an environmental, non-governmental organization. Kenneth Ashigbe, Dr. Kenneth Ashigbe, is a convener of the Media Coalition against Galamsey. And I must note that he had invited us, together with the coalition in the wake of the tragedy, that we should stop calling it Galamsey. We should call it what it is, an environmental crime. And those involved, environmental criminals. So no longer illegal miners, environmental criminals. There's a strong case being made that we might even elevate that nomenclature to environmental terrorists, because that's who they really are. And so I'm going to use that throughout this program, environmental criminals. That's the coalition have invited us to use on the back of what has happened. Also joining me is Modu Okurugu. You know him. He is with the UTAC national president, and I'm delighted that he joins us because they were part of the coalition of, if you like, players in the labor space. He organized labor that towards the end of last year, before the elections, came together and put pressure on the then government to say, you need to do something urgently or we're going to strike. And well, the strike didn't quite pan out, but UTAC stood his ground. They were the only union that actually went on a strike, and he joins us. The thing is, they've been consistent, because even this year, they've issued a statement already demanding a few things. In fact, they've given an ultimatum, if I'm getting it right, Mr. Kruger, that it's 3 months.
Yeah.
You give 3 months, if I'm not mistaken, for the government to act. Okay. And I want to start with Dr. Ashigbe. Oh, Senor Hasi is also joining me right now. I'm delighted that he can join me. He is a convener of the One Ghana movement. He's part of the coalition now, fighting this menace. And gentlemen, it's just right to start by paying our condolences and our respects to the fallen. And I want to start with you, Dr. Ashigbe, on that, because you were the first to actually issue a statement shortly after the tragedy last week, galvanizing the country, the president, to ensure that their memories really is one that is honored by winning the war against illegal mining, and that shouldn't be in vain. We've had some time now to reflect on what happened, and I'm pretty sure you still have a few things to say about the men involved, and I know you work with some of them in your line of work. It was interesting that last week when we're doing the PM Express on the night of the tragedy, we played Murtala Mohammed. He was on the show with you. We're talking about illegal mining that night, and we played just a bit of it. That was possibly one of his last major interviews. And he wasn't quite happy with you at the time, if I recall correctly, because he felt you should give the government a bit more time, but they were dedicated to dealing with this, and they were going to do so. I mean, just share your thoughts with me, as we all, of course, spend some time in memory of those who are falling.
Well, thank you very much. My heart definitely goes out to the 8 who had died in the line of duty, and to the small Ghanaians who have died in the pits that you are showing us. The several Ghanaians who currently also might have renal diseases and all of that. And I go through several emotions, you know. It was on the 16th of October, 1983, a policeman came to my house and then said to me that, "Are you Ketashi?" Yes. And then he told me that, unfortunately, your father was involved in an accident and had died. As a 10-year-old boy, you know, my house became, it's thing that has still not left me. And I still, that pain is still there. There's some things that I do that I ask myself, my father was around. Fortunately, my mother, I don't know whether my mother became my mother and my big sister became my father. They both men played the role in getting me to where I am now. But I tell you from experience, Evans, that these children, that these wives, these mothers are not going to be the same again. And so for me, and you see the points you made about Muntaka said about Omanebuama, I was in that meeting.
Oh, you were?
I said it.
Oh, you were in that meeting?
I was. But I've said it in several meetings that if there was one man, one politician was going to put my heart and was not involved in Galamsey, it was going to be Omanebuama. And I know for a fact that when it comes to the support of the current Minister of Land Natural Resources, the best person he gets a lot of his support from is Dr. Omanebuama. So for me, it is sad that he loses to an activity, which is related to Galamsey. And Daryl was in that event with me. They were saying that when it was, you have people, jubilating. All of those people, environmental criminals, those the Galamseys, environmental criminals, we know them. We know that we're not dealing with. So for me, there should be no monument built for these 8 people. We should not build any monuments. The only thing that we should do is that, based on the fact that they have sacrificed themselves for this country, their ultimate sacrifice at work, we should eradicate this environmental crime and deal with the environmental criminals
ruthlessly. It's frozen there. Let's try and fix his audio because it isn't quite stable. Please, let's fix that because he's making some very powerful points on this matter, setting us the tone. Let's fix that. I said hopefully when we join him, he rejoins, we can get a very clear line to him. But Daryl, he makes a very important point. I was just recounting the Interior Minister's revelations, but did I hear him? The line wasn't great. Hopefully we can fix it. Yeah. Did I hear him say that you were in that meeting?
No, I was actually at the Boise.
The Boise.
For the launch
of
the
okay. So that's the one.
Responsible Cooperative Mining.
Okay, so this event that he was headed
he
to.
himself was there as well.
Can I be also there?
I was there with Ken, yes. Exactly. So
this was last week, Wednesday.
Yes, that's right. That's right. So I think it's like as you have said, it was a very sad occasion. I mean, even though we're in a meeting, supposed to be a launch, we were getting this feedback by text message that, look, this is what has happened. And already right from the beginning of the program, the regional minister for Ashanti regional minister and also the MC for Boise, they had indicated, look, there's an emergency. But there was no clear detail as to what exactly that emergency was. So a lot of us were just quiet, anticipating what the information, but we're receiving from the back end some information on what was happening. So it was mostly at the end of the program. That was when the details started trickling in, and people really started feeling the loss.
I mean, this must be very personal to you because
it was.
You were all anticipating that he would arrive, right?
Exactly. I think we're all anticipating that these people were going to join us as well, and then we have a very great program. Because I think we were all very interested in the program the government was launching, because we thought that we needed to really deal with the menace of this environmental crime around us. And so any program that was going to help us do that, we're also going to be there to listen and make sure that we keep the government accountable and also responsible for everything they have said. So we were really looking forward to this. So, but to have this, I would say, serious sacrifice, and this was a sacrifice on the day of such a launch, for me is really, really, really significant in the sense that, look, 8 people had to sacrifice their life for this initiative we really want to do. And it's also kind of an initiative to rid our country of this menace, of this environmental terrorism that we're experiencing. So there's no way we can sit down and ignore this sacrifice.
Yeah.
We cannot. Yeah. It's something we need to really take seriously. If we're thinking of just going to let this responsible cooperative mining just go on as just like the community mining was, then this should be the turning point. Nothing should be the same ever again. We need to do things differently. We need to deal with this menace once and for all.
Yeah. I mean, what you say is so powerful that all of you were there hoping that this will be the beginning of something different to dealing with the Galamsey menace. And you were waiting for the Interior Minister, the Defense Minister and the Environment Minister to arrive, join you, and collectively launch this program, of course, hopefully lead to something different. And then this tragedy happened. Have you had any direct encounters at all? Obviously, both of you would have been consulted very broadly before the public launch. Yeah. Because I mean, I don't imagine that they would just invite you on the day and say, "Come for a launch." I know you are an advocate. You would have made some input into the strategy. Were you consulted? Well,
I think my encounter with the Honourable Minister for Environment, Mutale, was more about the LI 2462.
Okay.
And then I think during the Mining in Motion, he was on one of the panel discussion, and I had the opportunity to also pose some questions to both himself and also Sami Jemfiden. So I think it's been that very personal in terms of the things he cares about and the thing we also care about and what we have all been advocating for and the policy change we've been looking at. As for the Defense Minister, I have really admired him from afar. He's one very calm, collected personality, and I've always thought that, look, this man, if I get the opportunity, I'll definitely get up to greet him. I mean, extend my greetings. But it's really personal for me in the sense that we have a minister who really we've seen that was really interested in what he was doing. And I think anytime you listen to him, of course, we don't always have the same ideas or agree on the same things. But it looks like he has some commitment to what he was doing. So I think to that extent, you really identify with such people, particularly professionally, you see them in your line of duty, also committed to the same, but maybe looking at it in a different angle. So to that extent, really, it's really a hard blow. And also the fact that they were on a mission to work towards something we care so deeply about, for me, is what makes it hit home very hard. That we are now going to see that, look, if things don't go well, we are going to be reminded every day by this sacrifice of
the ultimate sacrifice they made. And I want to bring in the Senor Hosi into the conversation. And Senor, I know you have also been a staunch advocate for ending illegal mining through whichever means. You've made several proposals to this. And I know you had relationships with some of the fallen. Share your thoughts with me.
Evans, it's a very unfortunate story, which is very avoidable, and I really appreciate Joy from Multimedia for not letting this pass by. It's important we recognize the purpose for which they served at the moment and object that led to their eventual death. So it's my expectation and hope that we bring proper meaning to all this. I am heartbroken. I've known the two gentlemen for over 24 years. Both all of us are student leaders. It's really heartbreaking to actually have a situation like that. You know, I can't make sense out of us not making this count. The president, the government sought to fight this, come up with all social interventions to create alternative livelihoods. They've tried everything. We've deployed soldiers, we've deployed policemen, and today we have rendered 8 families, created 8+ widows all of a sudden, and we let this pass by and not let it count. That will be a huge blot on our own conscience as a people. Galamsey, as my senior convener said, is an environmental crime. We must see the reality of what we are dealing with. There's always the temptation to want to balance it with the economic needs of the time. We need to hold the CD. I agree. We cannot do that by jeopardizing the future of our children and children's children. We are destroying the meaning of life. Water is life. There's no reason why we shouldn't promote mining, but there's every reason why we must fight and bring to naught any environmental crime and illegal and irresponsible mining. Our advocacy has not been that we shouldn't mine. We should mine, but mine responsibly and legally. We can't be destroying our water bodies. We can't be destroying our forest reserves. And now we are destroying families. We are depriving this country of great human resource that could help drive and manage and transform policy for the good of our children and children's children. This cannot be made to continue. As a matter of fact, I easily could have been on that flight. My colleague Daryl and Togby had to actually go. I was not in town. What would I be doing? Would be asking me to make sure I'm there, as you all are aware. I had a similar encounter. I sat on the same helicopter instead of voix. I went and came back with voix. We went there to do the blue water thing in Jomoro. This was an event that also required us to be present. I was absent. My colleagues were present on our behalf. Any of us could have been there. What will we say? So if we are all alive, we must make sure we advocate right. Omani did not throw his life for this. That's a man with a great prospect, fantastic human being, very loving father, committed father. His children's school with my children. This man is committed to the latter. And maybe as a parent, I cannot even compare myself to Omani. I'm telling you, with how he's done that, what is going to become of the life of these children? All these people, 8 widows, all of a sudden, plus. My brother, His Excellency the President, I believe, has been hit more than anybody. His relationship with the lives of Omani and Co. For me, he has lost a heartbeat. It is personal to him. That's why when he says the loss is personal to him, he meant it in every way. The man is not stable. He can't be stable because what has happened is getting home. So if there's no awakening at all that ever existed, as for this one, it's an awakening for everybody. Let's make this count. Major Muhammad lost his life. Let's not make Omane and the 8 others. Muchala. No, not at all. I was just looking at a picture recently. Squadron leader Anala and my daughter, and a picture of the 2 of them. Very affable, nice man. Very affable, nice man. Who I met thanks to Mabel Banase and the Brigadier General Minyo many years ago. Why should this young man and his family just have to face this? It's not right. So we should stop just crying. If you want this crying and mourning and every day to have meaning, the meaning should be that what these men were out there to fight for, we realize the outcome of it. Those of us alive brought meaning to that. So I commend you, multimedia. But we must now transform this conversation into bringing an end to that environmental crime. The criminals behind it, the political criminals behind it, the business criminals behind it, and their chiefs who are criminals who are also behind it. Everyone must be brought to naught and to book. We can't continue to destroy our country and claim we are developing it. Don't cut your nose to spite your face. You must be a fool to want to do so.
Yeah,
and we will not bring foolishness to the lives of these people.
And one of the things we'll explore is, okay, so what then must change specifically now going forward? Stay with me, Senor. Hopefully Dr. Ashibe is back. But let me come to Prof. In the studio with me. Prof, Utah has been very consistent in the way you've approached this. You put in the might of labor behind this. You almost standing alone. Last year, when the rest of the team, the organized labor said, we're going to be laying down twos, in the end, you stood alone. Yes, you called out the thing eventually. This year, you were back with another ultimatum for 3 months for the government to do something more drastic around this. And then you hear the tragedy. I wonder how that made you feel, considering that this fight you waged under your leadership as president.
Yeah, thank you, Evans. And let me join my colleagues in extending our condolences to the bereaved families again. I think Omani and Mutala, at least I came into contact with them in the early 2000s as student leaders. And
oh, so you were also part of that? Okay.
That group. So at least I know how passionate, especially Omani was, and Mutala in terms of student welfare, writing a book on get fund issues those days. Omani. That became a reference material for many of us student leaders. And so it's very hard that we just can't imagine that we are not going to see them again. Actually, I was also supposed to be at that launch, but we had a university council meeting on that day. And so I asked my president and colleagues on the KNUSC campus to represent me, and which they did.
Okay.
And we were at the meeting when we had the news of some helicopter crashing, and it changed the whole meeting, the mood in the meeting, and we had to almost close before even the time that we were scheduled to close. And so it's a real national tragedy that the only thing we can do, as the earlier speakers have said, is to honor their memory by winning this war. And for us in academia, we believe that there is no any better opportune time to get this done than now, because of the fact that everybody agrees that the loss of these 8 people must not go in vain.
Yeah.
And so it is time to get things done and done right and get this crime eliminated completely from the country. As we always say, nobody is against mining. What we are against is the destruction of the environment using irresponsible methods in mining. And it just beats one's imagination how, as a nation, we are unable to address this issue.
Yeah.
When I can't just imagine that the president, with all the state machinery, with our national security, with our military, with our intelligentsia, with our academics, with our civil society organizations, we have not been able to solve this issue. It's just, I don't know how else to put it. And it's all because of the fact that we probably think that this is far from us. And so those who are supposed to act probably are feeling that this is, after all, far away in some rural area somewhere.
Some forest.
Some forest somewhere that people are doing what they are doing. So let them do what they are doing. But this is so close to us than we think. It's very, very close to us because our food systems are being poisoned. And as for the water system, you see the videos we are playing with the water systems and all that. And so this is really the time for us to do whatever it takes to make sure that we win this war. And for us, we'll continue to...
Yeah, we'll come to the specific demands you included in your last statement to the president. But I want to bring in a dimension to this. And I want to bring in Dr. Ashigbe in. I believe we have Dr. Ashigbe back on the line, hopefully in the better connection. Okay. And Doc, apologies there, we lost you earlier and the line wasn't great, but hopefully it is now. In your statement that you issued shortly after the tragedy, you were very clear about what you wanted the state agencies to do as it relates to the politically exposed individuals, the political elements who have had a hand or suspected to have a hand in this matter. And you mentioned names. You're very, very clear on this. You didn't really hold back. You said, arrest and investigate and or prosecute politically exposed persons involved in these environmental crimes, including the directors of Akunta Mining, the NDC MP for Owen, the NDC Constituency Chairman for Ivalidra, Jomoro. You also went ahead to make the point about the politicians who were named in the Professor Frimpong Boateng report and others. If indeed it's established, and I'm raising this particular point because the majority of those who died among the 8 were politicians. To think, and we've known this for so long, that Frimpong Boateng is the closest we came to actually confirming that indeed senior political figures are either indirectly complicit or directly involved in illegal mining. When you think about that, now it's now led to the direct loss of life of cabinet ministers, senior politicians at that. It just hits home differently.
So ignorance, I don't know, so I'm not too sure what Iyoko is doing about the NDC national organizer and then the NDC third vice president. I'm not too sure what's happening. The Akunta Mining issue, only one director has been arrested. We have not seen anything happening. Those people you mentioned, you remember the situation where we saw some elements wearing national security uniform go and attack a forestry commission place. What is happening to them? And so currently what is happening is that there are people who sit around the table with Omane and Muntaf who have contributed to his death. And so if we want to really deal with it, the elephant in the room is the elephant in the room. The politically exposed person, Senor will draw in the business connected people, these criminals. And we're not dealing with them, we're dealing with them with kid gloves. And so that's what we need. We want to see the president do. And so the head of Iyoko, I'm not too sure why is it that when he came to Wontumi, there was a show of it. And he was called. Why is it that we've not seen Yamin and the third deputy vice president of the NDC also arrested and the investigations being carried out? There's several, these police people, the national security people who went there, their faces are on camera. Why is it that we're not seeing anything about it? And so for me, and that's the painful part of it, that the one of those who really were pushing it, and as I said about Omane and Co, they rather have lost their lives. And these people whose the blood are on their heads and they know it. They know it because currently what is happening is that you find that some DCs, MCs, party chairpersons are all complicit in it. And there's a measure between the current government and the past government, and they're doing these things. And so if we want to deal with it, what His Excellency has to do is that those who we have named, some of them we have petitions against them, like the NDC MP for Awen, who his traditional authority says he's complicit in it. There was one MP as well who was caught on tape. Erastus was there, when the police had gone to the particular place and were dealing with people who were mining by the side of the road. This MP, he called me the last time trying to explain that that's not what he wanted to do. But he was talking to these people saying, you know, an illegality that is happening. And if you take the Act 955, anybody who facilitates Galamsey is also guilty of it. And so, like the same way that 9/11, when it happened, when those people drove into the Twin Towers, you saw the attitude of the Americans towards it. That is what we need to do.
And this is environmental terrorism too. This is terrorism too.
Yes, environmental terrorism and not only that, even this is an activity that has led in the last 5 years. Ghana has lost 11.4 billion. How much money is the IMF giving us? 11.4 billion. There's a report, and an authentic report that shows that 5 years. That's how much we have lost. And so beyond environmental terrorism, these are people who are raping us as the people. I can tell you there's a large-scale mining people who are losing 250 million because of the encroachment that is happening in 2 years. And so when we talk about this, apart from the fact that they are frying our kidneys, you know, they are killing people and all of that, you know, it is a grave situation. If you had 11.5 billion over the last year, would we have had DDP? You know how many people lost their lives in there? Ask Senor Jose when he was running around about that DDP. How many people had lost their lives? So when we talk about criminals, these people are criminals. These are people who look Muntaka and Omani Boma in the face. And they still go ahead and do the things that they're doing. And so for everybody who also has to act and does not act, you are also complicit. The blood of these 8 people will be on your heads. For us as Catholics, we believe in martyrdom. Omani Boma currently is a martyr. He sacrificed his life for solving the challenges of our issues. And the blood of these people will be on the heart of people. So we need to see it like that.
Yeah.
That this is not a thing we should joke about. So that's our call. That particular activity is a critical one. But there's another one that should happen. Currently, I would be asking His Excellency the President that anywhere you have Galamsey, you should immediately dismiss the MCE and the DCE. And the police commanders who are in those communities, the national security people who are in those communities, after you've dismissed them, immediately you need to interdict them and start investigating them for complicity. You dismiss them for incompetence, and then you start investigating them for complicity. Because if you're an MCE, DCE, you are the chairman of the national, district or municipal security committee, and you are also the chairperson of the mining committee, and there's Galamsey happening in your place, you are either incompetent or you are complicit, or both. And in both ways, you are not a good representative. So if the president says that one of the KPIs that he's given to the police, to the DC's MC, then we should start seeing that being called out. Yeah. Immediately. We should start seeing that being called out.
Immediately. And Darryl, I want to bring you in here. I mean, I listened to Dr. Ashigbe speak about the political actors involved in this, and to think that, I don't know what they would be thinking now seeing their own colleagues they've campaigned with, they've sat, probably ate with, killed because of their greed. And Dr. Ashigbe is right. The blood of those 8 are on their hands, right? But we know for a fact that senior political elements in both parties are involved in this. Now it's claimed their own colleagues in this very gruesome, tragic way. If this doesn't change anything, what will?
Evans, I think, I mean, the way you say it, it makes it really harrowing. But really, that's what it is.
Yeah, I mean, it just goosebumps when I was just thinking about it.
Exactly. Like, and you'll be surprised that even as we were mourning, there are already people still deploying, moving equipment to new areas to mine. And the same people, they'll be clad in black and all of that. And back then, they are on their phones and making calls and deploying people to the fields and all of that. So for me, and that's what Ken is saying, that, look, we need to really check the kind of people representing us as citizens in all of these MMDA areas. The district, the municipalities, all of them. All those key regions where illegal mining is happening and devastating our lands and water bodies, we really need to act for some accountability. It is not too early. Actually, we give them too much time. Already 7 months, 8 months now to do a lot, but nothing has happened. So I think that this is the time that we spare no one. And the president and all his people need to sit up and make sure that everything they claim they would do to end Galamsey must happen. Otherwise, we are just joking.
How radical must they be? And Dr. Akebe is right in citing 9/11. We shouldn't make any bones about what is happening. We shouldn't confuse it. It is terrorism of the highest order. The number of people possibly killed by Galamsey, the contaminated water, is possibly more than the 3,000 that died in the 9/11, right? And more. I mean, the 8 is just the freshest reminder of what has happened.
Exactly.
And we saw the way they dealt with it.
Yeah.
You're either against us or for us.
Yeah.
I mean, and they just went scorched earth until they got the people involved.
Exactly.
How radical should the president be?
You see, we have already indicated that, look, there are certain areas in this country where Galamsey is so rife. You know where it is. You know the people. Go after these people without any mercy. But we just take it for granted. Look, equipment are moving every day. We see them. The police are sitting idle by the roadside, checking these, watching them, exchanging greetings, and go. This is how seriously we should not let anybody go without consequences. And this is where I think that the presidency needs to take, this is how they should take the fight. So far, we've just relaxed. And for me, that is not going to solve the problem. I want to see a situation where all these politically exposed persons are really promptly brought to book, charged, prosecuted, and then we see that it's going to be deterrent enough.
You think they can? I mean, the last
very, very important.
The last politician who tried to do something, Professor Frimpong, we know what happened to him.
Exactly.
They hounded him. They charged him. He was extradited from the political party. He was called names. I interviewed him once, and he was shattered because he dared say, my colleagues are involved. You think that anything will change because of the 8 deaths?
Well,
as far as the political...
You see, that's why we are saying that if nothing happens within this time that we find ourselves in, we are not in this... We're in a different era now.
Okay.
Things have changed. And if nothing happens now, then really all Ghanaians should just put our hands on our heads and just forget about it. This is the time to deal with Galamsey, because we've seen the sacrifices of people in government who are on a mission to make things better. And let's not forget, even before this, we've had several Ghanaians die in the pits, school kids who have fallen in pits, others who went to the site, were just on the standby, and the caving and the water bodies and all of that, they've lost their lives as a result of that. So this is the time to really hit hard on any criminal involved in it. We need to look at the financial transactions going on as a result of the trade. We need to look at those who are pushing arms as a result of this, those who are pushing the drugs. And Evans, look, if you go to the district, the MMDAs, the NIB on the ground, the officers on the ground, they have every information we need to deal with this issue. I always ask myself, why are we even struggling with this? And like Prof said, it beats one's mind to see how, as a country, with all the resources, the logistics, the intelligence services, we are still struggling. And this is why we certainly agree that, look, we must ensure that we make sure people are either competent to do their job or we ask them to step aside. It's never too early to start sacking MMDCs who are really in areas where Galamsey is still prevalent. And it's really happening as we speak.
I mean, and Prof, I'll come to your statement now. And as Dara was saying, I was just looking at, because I know recently, in the last few weeks, we had several reports of Galamsey pits collapsing and people dying. Yeah. 4 days ago, Ghana Web, Galamsey pit collapse, killed 6 at Wassa Dunkwa. Then 4 weeks ago, BBC, 3 illegal miners die in the pit collapse. 4 weeks ago, this is City newsroom, 4 feared dead, 20 trapped in Galamsey pit collapse at Achimwenchi. You can just go on and on and on. You were asking recently, making some demands of this current government. What were you asking for?
Yeah, we're simply asking for, before they came into power, they had signed a pact with us.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Yes, and in that pact, a number of things were outlined, including the state of emergency, including the repeal of the LI.
They agreed to do it.
And they agreed to do it. It's signed. Okay. I mean, the president signed it as candidate Mahamadan. So we're just reminding him that you signed and committed to this, and we want you to walk the talk. So simply those were our demands. But you see, the way that we are fighting this Galamsey...
Forgive me, this was a month ago, if I believe, give or take.
Yes, about a month ago.
Yeah,
about a month ago.
Since you wrote that latest letter to the government, have they responded?
We've not had any response yet. Okay. And as I'm around, we would follow up. And remind them.
So nobody even called you to acknowledge?
Not at all. We'll remind them that time is taken.
Because you give them, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, 3 months.
Yeah, we said we're going to use 3 months to observe the implementation of the pact, and we would advise ourselves accordingly.
Have you been happy with what they've done? At least nobody called you, but have you been happy with the last 1 month since you wrote the letter that something substantive was happening that may change the course of the fight against illegal mining?
Yeah, some things are happening, but the truth remains that the gains are normally overtaken by the expansion in the activities of these people. So you go and then you are able to sack these people from this point, but new people are emerging and doing even worse things somewhere. And so it's just not holistic enough. And that is why we're asking for this targeted state of emergency. And the reason is very simple. Even this thing that we're going to launch, or they went to launch, the responsible community mining, the people are still doing the illegal thing. So who are you even going to let them do the responsible thing?
And that was the doom of the previous incarnation of this, which is the
community
mining. Yes. It became actually a cover for illegal mining.
So you have to flush and clean the system, because the thing you do is that you see how Trump, for example, is handling, the radical things in the U.S. You get onto the table, you clear the table, clear it completely, and now decide what comes on top of the table. But if you leave some things on the table, and you are trying to see what should be there and what should not be there and all that, you are going to fail. And that is that's the tragedy of the fight of this Galamsey fight. That instead of flushing out everybody and now deciding who should come in and how they should come in, we allow the people to still be there and do all the kinds of things they're doing, and we say we are launching responsible mining. Who is going to do that responsible mining? You see, so we need to be very holistic. And you talk about the transactions. Go to some of the Galamsey areas and see the buildings that are springing up. Where are they getting those monies from?
Yeah.
So part of the fight is to be able to, track people and question where their wealth is coming from. I mean, you can't imagine how people that we know, just yesterday they were not able to do certain things, all of a sudden have become billionaires, putting up skyscrapers and all the rest of it. And then everybody is fine. Oh, they are the new kings in town and all that. So if we have to fight this Galamsey and to win it, we must be holistic, we must be intentional about how we go about it. And for the president, I think that it has taken too long since this national tragedy. I have not heard of any commitment. I have not heard of any new pronouncements, policy decisions as to, yes, we are mourning, but our people say it is only within this context that we can really have real change. And that is, if the soup is still hot, the shea butter, when you put inside, it will melt. If it gets cold and you put the shea butter, nothing happens. And so at this point of grief, at this point of pain, this is when the president should have come out and make some very clear and decisive pronouncements on Galamsey in honor of these 8 people that we've lost, in addition to Major Mahama and the rest of the people that we've lost in this fight. But so far, it's just been, we are committed, we will fight, and, those phrases, they don't mean anything. They are just cover-ups. And so I can bet you that within the next 1 week, if nothing serious and no serious action is taken, and no serious commitment and pronouncements are made in terms of decisive policy decisions on fighting this, forget it.
No, but that I can't imagine that should happen. I mean, it's unimaginable that after this pain, this national tragedy, we've all mourning, we are going to bury them, all of them, that we've just buried 2 already this past. You're saying that there's actually a possible outcome here where nothing happens.
I'm always an optimistic person, but in this particular case, I can tell you that if for the next 1 week, nothing decisive happens, forget it.
Wow.
We are finished. Because that is how our politicians, in Ghana...
often they say that, it doesn't strike home for them. As I think you made a point about, yes, it's so distant.
It's so distant.
But this is different, right? I mean, this is... I don't know who made the point on this show that this is the president's heart. Because Omani, I think, is Dr. Ashigbe. Omani is very close to him, Mutala, to almost everybody else on that flight, right? So if this doesn't move him to be radical, I struggle to think that this would end with nothing actually happening. That would be different.
Well, you see how, grieving happens. I mean,
the stages.
You have the stages, you see. And so when we are past these 2 weeks, we are moving towards acceptance that these people are really gone. And, in Ghana, we always say, it's God that has brought it. I mean, may they rest in peace and all that. And then business as usual. I expect...
Hold that thought. Senor Jose, business as usual after 1 week. That is my fear, really. Part of the reason I said we should have this conversation, and we're going to have this conversation a lot in the next few weeks. We can't allow this to become one of those incidents. It's just too painful, too tragic, to allow this to just pass so that we can go back to our normal lives and leave the criminals, the terrorists, to continue doing what they're doing that led to their deaths. Do we have Senor there? Hello, Senor, please unmute for me. Hello, Senor. Let me put that to Dr. Ashigbe. Doc, that certainly can be.
No,
Hello?
Yes, Senor is there.
Senor, yeah, Senor is back here. Senor.
Yeah, the question again, please. Sorry, but then I was breaking on my side.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard the question. I mean, I'll come back to you. Let Dr. Ashigbe have a bite so that you probably get the flow. Doc, please weigh in on that. We can't allow this to happen.
No, you see, again, so when the president tells you that this is personal, when the president tells you that Omani Boama is his confidant, and I can tell you for a fact that that's what it is. There's a second one again, there are 2 of them who are that close to him. And so if this hits the president so hard, I don't know how they would describe us. Already, as a people, if we're not careful, history would describe us very badly. The kind of people who decided that they themselves and would go and bring people from outside and come and poison their own water and die, But if now this would happen to us, and it's never happened before all this our push against Galamsey, where now it is, because I have followed Awolasewa when she says that the firefighters are the arsonists, the people in charge. But now when it is that this particular people, then some of them get, annihilated in this particular one, and the president would decide that nothing would happen. I am not too sure. I am not too sure that is going to happen. But you know what, Evans? You know the reason why that's also not going to happen? People like you and I, people like Darryl, people like Senor, people like Prof, we're not going to let that happen. Because one of the things I went out to my Archbishop, the Archbishop of Accra, and I told him that, Your Grace, it is important that we get ourselves back on the streets.
Yeah.
That prayer we prayed, where we moved the whole of the Archdiocese of Accra back on the street, that is going to happen. One of my calls to everybody is that we should join UTAG to ensure that we are mobilizing everybody. The coalition had planned a mass activity, and we didn't know all of this was going to happen. And so we needed to mobilize. I think the time has come. Currently, our mobilization will be to support the likes of the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources and the President himself to do this.
Yeah.
I am praying that nobody stands in the way of all of us Ghanaians. I am telling you, Saint Omani Boama, the martyr currently in heaven, he would intercede for us. Give us the courage to be able to do this. We will not allow that to happen. And I'm sure that the president will not allow that to happen.
Yeah.
You know the way grief can do. Maybe that's the phase he's in, but that cannot happen. And I can tell you that military people themselves, senior hierarchy,
and that's right. And come to that for me is what gives me confidence. That the fact that they've lost 3 of your own in this manner. I mean, they lost Muhammad, the other one who we immortalized at that. And nothing happened, and then they've lost 3, including their own leader, the defense minister. That they will sit down for those guys who created the scenario for them to die, to just continue doing the things they're doing and destroying them. I don't see that happening. But I also see the point that Prof is making, and I want to bring this in here, that as a people, we just have this tendency to move on to the next tragedy and the next story, and then once the attention shifts, we've grieved, we've mourned, we've complained, we've talked. Nothing tends to happen. And that is why there are some who are suggesting, and that this may be one of those moments where, yes, we are grieving now, we are all heartbroken and want to do something, but then after 2 weeks, we've moved on to the stage of acceptance. Do you see any universe where we return to the status quo and do nothing and just do what we do and just forget about it and move on with our lives? That nothing fundamentally happens, Daniel?
On a regular day, that is like 99% the situation. The only thing that has shifted this time, and we just pray that it is of any meaningful value, is how close home this is hitting. And that is only just giving us a 10% chance, in my opinion, that will really bring meaning to this particular matter. As we are speaking, on the same day that this report passed, members from his own party started lobbying to replacing them on their various jobs. Businessmen were now counting their losses and thinking of who next to go and partner to develop or drive their various projects. My brother, the mourning that we are mourning, it's not everybody who is mourning with us. And there are a lot of people with more power who are not really mourning. And for some people, they summarize this thing in one way. Oh, it is their family that has lost. We'll figure out something, how to support them. And they get back to doing their thing, including the criminals, political criminals and business criminals in this environmental crime. So there's a higher likelihood that we'll go back to business as usual. But there's a better chance than usual because I believe this is very personal to the president. Omani is not any regular person. That was the president's brother. That was the president's confidant, the president's friend. That is the person that he keeps his security with. That man has been loyal to His Excellency Obama for many years. He has been vilified, but still stood by his man. And JM, if for nothing at all, appreciates loyalty. I want to believe will bring meaning to the lives of these people. I have still not forgotten that Major Mahama died.
Yeah.
And if the story is right, they are somewhat related. We haven't brought meaning to his death yet as a country. I can't hold GM for it. He's doing his bit. But right now, he has to up the ante. He has to increase the tempo. Transformation must come. But if we leave things after the funeral, my brother, everything will just start moving. People will easily forget. These people will now become statistics. But we cannot make their lives just become statistics. We must make it have meaning. We have to make them martyrs, heroes for the transformation of this entire fight against Galamsey. We have to bring meaning to it so that we see that restoration of our environmental sanctity was driven by the lives and the blood that was shed at that time. Else, it's business as usual. Even you yourself, the media people. By after the funeral, another 1 week, you go back with some chopo, some silly politician talks about something, you go there and then spend time about it. So musicians say something, you go there and that's where the conversation will go. We'll all start forgetting. This Galamsey fight, when Kanasibe and started it and dragged all of us along in 2016, 2017, look at how the tempo was. We saw some changes. Later on, tempo dies, changes start to reverse. Will you then be true partners in bringing meaning to the lives of these people? That's a question I think I should be asking you, my brother.
Yeah.
Evans, will you, the media, bring meaning to the lives of these people? By not just jumping to the next story, but making sure that this Galamsey fight is the newly won and these people and their lives are honored. That is the question I think I want to put to you.
Yeah.
Ken and myself, Daryl, our youth president, we have been committed to this cause. We spend our money, personal money, fighting it. We spend and risk our businesses fighting this. We risk opportunities fighting this. This is what we wake up. This is the only social cause I am committed to today. So please, I beg you, do we have a partner in the media or not?
Well, you have a partner.
We become a cup. We've not been having partnerships in our media in this fight in the last few years. Unless you get a boom before you take Senior's boom and say, oh, yes, I'm going to run this story for a week. Or Ken's boom. Now, even our booms last just for hours. Please, we need partnership from the media to bring meaning to these lives. So if you guys are the ones agreeing with us at this time, let us see that advocacy. Let us see that consistency. Let us bring tenacity to this fight. Let's bring meaning to this life. And let's transform this for the good of not just our children, but our children and children's children. It is the future of Ghana that is at stake.
Yeah, and
lives have been lost for it.
And I can assure you, Senor, I can assure you, Dr. Shibian, that this partnership that we've been on for years will continue until some, even more invigorated now on the back of what has happened. And Prof, I know I said at the beginning that UTAC has been almost, as far as the labor unions are concerned, the last institution standing, if you like, because you've really been consistent. And now that we are agreeing that we should not allow the politicians with the power we've given them to go to sleep. Yes, it struck home. It's President's heart. President's own eyeballs have been plucked here. If there is a small chance that he will let this become one of those that we forget and go back to, what is Utah willing to do to ensure that doesn't happen? And because I know you really have muscle here. And I think Dr. Ashigbe makes the point that he's one to partner because of the force you have across the country. Well, what is the commitment?
For us, our commitment is very simple. Our commitment is to see Galamsey completely uprooted in the country. And our commitment is to ensure that this is done, at least to a large extent, this year. And if this doesn't trigger the kind of decisive action that is required to get us to the promised land, as usual, UTAC will definitely advise itself. And if it requires that we close the system to get things done before we open up, we will do that.
And to be clear, the demands are this, and I want to repeat those in the coalition statement, and you made some of the points here, but I just want to repeat it, so that the politicians who are the power to act, they are left in no doubt what my panelists are talking about. One, a targeted state of emergency to apprehend the forces persistently fueling this environmental crime and gradually bringing our country to its knees. Everybody agrees that must happen. I think it has been said here. Repeal of LI 2462 and its amendments that we have agreed. In fact, Murtala Mohammed was here on this subject and had taken on Dr. Ashigbe on that and had said this will happen in phases. But that repeal is one. Stop deporting foreigners caught in this environmental crime and instead prosecute and jail them. That's another thing that we agree must happen because this government started by simply deporting them. And then arrest, investigate, and prosecute the politically exposed persons. And in fact, this statement went ahead to mention some of them. We've talked about some of them here. We all agree that these politicians, their colleagues are dead, but indeed, if they are found guilty, they are complicit and they have blood on their hands, as Dr. Ashigbe had said. These are at least the 4 key demands. Is there more? Did I leave out anything? There's something else?
Well, I think it's also connected to this is the issue of mining ongoing in our forest reserves and our rivers.
Okay.
And these are clear benchmarks that you can really act on and can be everybody will see that our rivers are now devoid of people mining around them, or our forest reserves are now clear of miners. So I think if you add those ones to it, I mean, there are like 2 forces to connect to that. So it's once you are able to connect all of these, I mean, it's going to be a clear statement that, look, the government is serious and is now zero tolerance for this kind of environmental terrorism in this country.
Darryl, he just talked about what UTAG is ready to do. If they have to shut down the system until this is done, they will. For civil society, and I know that's in your space, you do advocacy, but also activism. What are you willing to do if after the burial, you do not get the action, the radical action that you are calling for tonight?
Yeah, I think, as has been said, we have already started, like Ken said, already starting to mobilize ourselves, several networks and alliances and all of that. And if it means that we need to be on the streets almost all the time until we start seeing action, that's what we are going to do. So I think we are ready, we are poised for it, and we really want to make sure this government takes this bull by the horns and really ensure there's a turnaround. We cannot allow things to continue as it is. We are not in normal times, so we really need some radical actions for us to push forward on this. And
I want to go to Dr. Ashigbe for something he was saying at the tail end of his submission there. In terms of partnerships, what partnership can we find in the military in this next phase, considering that they have lost 3 officers and their defense minister? I mean, as we form partnerships for this next phase.
Well, I think that NEMOS is led by Kanaboa, who is a military person. But then, so definitely we need to put together the whole armed force. See, where we are currently, there's a lot of intelligence work that we need as well. So beyond the boots on the ground, beyond the drones in the sky, beyond Navy on the war bodies, all of that, we also need bring intelligence to bear. If we track the money, we go in all of these communities and these people, track money. Who are people who brought the skaters in town? Fortunately, there's some working around that. So what we need from the military is, but again, because we are in a democracy, the decision to be taken by the commander-in-chief. And the commander-in-chief, will tell his men to go. And when the men go out time, because they've been beaten, they will be decision, but the decision would have to be taken by the commander-in-chief, the state emergency. The UK, we were in Ghana when the UK started having this rise. They set up courts within 24 hours. People were able to be prosecuted. We've had Dr. Edu speak, and we should listen to him. We had the EPA CEO speak about the needs of electors to be able to deal with this. So there are voices in there who are asking that we need to deal with this. We're tough. And again, Prof. Spot, you see, I can't say engineer and crime to two. So need to what is clear, the slate clear. But I can tell you for free that a day or two after this tragedy happened, there were the Chinese people, 7 men, 2 women who were arrested. Where were they taken to? They were taken to the immigrations. If they arrest us and they take to the immigrations, what are they going to do? They are going to deport them. So Muntak, if Muntak is sick and Kari says that he's feeling it, then he should change that illegal policy that is brought. That says, when foreigners are acted, they should be deported. He should change that immediately and make sure we apply 995 immediately to these criminals that we are arresting. That happened. The IGP should be telling us, so we need participants in the IGP as well. He will tell us how many of these police he has transferred. where they clearly are, what parent wants there, what it is that doing. So you need partnership in everybody. Business, we need businesses to also come on and say that need a revulsion that professional body all come up. All come out. I call on the Catholic Bus Conference. I call on Christian Council. I call on Chief Imam. I call on the Coast Council. We call on all chiefs. That chiefs are really pushing it. We need to hear them also. All of them have to come together. We should call on Awulon and all of that. They all need to come together, and we need all combine our forces to make sure that only are we crying in the morning. We think that we declare a war against these criminals, these terrorists, against, we'll flush them out. It has to be decided to the extent we don't go back. Even all of this thing we're saying, there's another thing that is brewing. A lot of people, a lot of the Galamsey are buying a lot of points and all of that. Boku conflict is being fueled and funded by gold. You know, some of this money that is coming from here. So national security crisis that is being, that also we need to pay attention to.
Yeah, Dr. Shigbe, thank you very much. Prof, I'm grateful that you joined us. Daryl, thank you very much. And Senor Hosi, we'll return to this conversation after the burial. The funeral is this Friday. May their souls rest in perfect peace. Once that happens, we'll return to this conversation. We'll stay with this and have allies already here. We're forming partnerships to renew this fight against illegal mining. And I hope you will join. You will join us in honor of those 8 and the many others who have died because of illegal mining. You want to join us. Enjoy the rest of your evening.